Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're hopping in our time machine and heading back to 1997.
1997, huh? It's going way back.
Yeah, we're going to check out Jeff Bezos' very first letter to Amazon shareholders.
Oh, wow, that's a classic, like a business world legend.
Exactly. It's almost like a window into the very beginning of Amazon.
Right at the start of their journey.
Back then, most folks were still dealing with dial-up.
Oh, yeah, the worldwide wait.
Exactly. And Amazon was mostly known for selling books.
Primarily a bookseller back then.
It really puts things in perspective.
Absolutely, the context is key here. It wasn't like some established tech giant, right?
No, definitely not.
It was like a young company in this brand new landscape.
Yeah, trying to figure it all out.
Totally.
So let's jump into this letter. One of the things that really caught my eye was this day one idea.
The day one mentality, yeah.
It's almost like a mantra for Bezos.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And he actually gives a real example in the letter. I think it shows what he means by day one.
Oh, interesting. What is it?
He talks about how Amazon was looking at data, even for their most successful programs,
Right.
always looking for ways to improve.
Makes sense.
Like it wasn't enough to just be doing well.
Right.
They had to be constantly evolving and getting better.
Yeah, I get you. It's like not just resting on their laurels. But is there a risk of taking that too far, though?
What do you mean?
Like, could that constant focus on the future, that day one thing,
Yeah,
could it make it hard to appreciate what you've already achieved?
that's a really good question. And it gets to this balance that every successful company has to figure out, right?
Right.
On the one hand, you need that drive to keep innovating.
Yeah, to keep moving forward.
Exactly. But you also have to acknowledge your wins. You got to celebrate the journey a bit too.
Yeah, for sure. Makes sense. So moving on. Another thing that stood out to me was Bezos's focus on the long game.
The long game.
Yeah, he's talking about being okay with delaying gratification, like prioritizing long-term market leadership over just making a quick buck.
Ah, I see what you mean.
And he wasn't just talking about it, he was actually doing it.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Investing heavily in building a really solid infrastructure for Amazon
Right, right.
and working constantly to make the customer experience better.
Putting in the work.
Yeah, and those aren't things that necessarily pay off immediately,
Definitely not.
but he saw them as crucial for building a lasting business.
Essential, yeah.
He even says something like, it's all about earning customer trust,
Mm-hmm.
even if it means maybe taking a hit financially in the short term.
Taking one for the team.
Exactly. He knew that a loyal customer base is more valuable than any quick profit.
Yeah, that focus on the customer really runs through the whole letter.
Speaking of the customer, he talks a lot about improving the shopping experience.
Like how?
Wider selection, lower prices, just constantly making things better for the customer.
Sounds familiar.
And he even gets specific about using technology to do it.
Ah, I see where you're going with this. This is where the data-driven decisions come in.
Right. He wasn't just relying on gut feelings. He wanted to use data
Our data.
to figure out what customers wanted and how to deliver.
What?
He uses this phrase, measuring programs analytically,
Okay.
and talks about jettisoning anything that's not working,
Just me.
basically getting rid of it.
Hmm.
So for anyone who doesn't speak fluent business, could you break that down?
Sure. He's basically saying that every decision, every program, every new feature needs to be tested,
Okay.
measured.
Yep.
And if the data shows it's not working,
Yeah.
they're not afraid to just scrap it, move on,
Wow.
even if it was a big investment or pet project.
So it's about being data informed, but not letting the data make all the decisions.
Exactly. It's a powerful tool,
Yeah.
but it's most valuable when you combine it with,
Yeah.
human intuition and strategic thinking.
Yeah.
It's finding that balance.
Makes sense.
And that kind of leads us to another big thing in the letter, Bezos' way of investing.
Yeah.
He wasn't afraid to go big.
Oh, yeah. He wasn't shy about making bold moves, even if they seemed kind of risky.
Yeah, risky at the time.
He actually says he prefers bold rather than timid investments.
He does, yeah.
And he gives examples, right? Like expanding beyond just books.
He did. Music was the first new category they added.
Right. But he clearly saw the potential for Amazon to be way bigger than just a bookstore.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And he wasn't afraid to put resources behind that vision, even if it meant, going into uncharted territory.
I remember reading that they invested early on in this company that delivered groceries online.
Hmm. Interesting.
It seemed crazy at the time, but now look at how huge online grocery shopping is.
Yeah, that's a great example of Bezos being ahead of the curve,
Yeah.
willing to bet on ideas that others might have dismissed.
Seen as too risky or even outlandish.
Yeah, and that willingness to take those calculated risks, it's a big part of why Amazon became so successful.
It makes you wonder, what if he had played it safe?
Mm.
Like, what if he just stuck to selling books? Would Amazon even exist today?
Hard to say for sure. But it's clear that his boldness played a huge role in their growth.
Yeah.
It's a good lesson, really, for anyone trying to build something new.
In any field, you mean?
Yeah, sometimes you got to swing for the fences, even if it means, you might strike out.
Okay, so we talked about boldness,
Yeah.
but he also emphasizes something else.
What's that?
This idea of employee ownership. He mentions preferring stock options over just giving cash.
Interesting. Can you explain that a bit? Like, why was that so important to him?
Well, stock options, they give employees the right to buy shares of the company's stock at a certain price down the road.
I see. So if the company does well and the stock price goes up.
Yeah, the employees who hold those options, they stand to make a lot of money.
Oh, okay.
And Bezos saw this as a way to align everyone's incentives with the long-term success of Amazon.
To get everyone on the same page.
Exactly. It wasn't just about attracting talent, but about creating a culture where everyone felt invested.
Like they had skin in the game.
Yeah. He wanted employees to think like owners, to be in it for the long haul, you know?
Not just focused on the next paycheck.
Right. And that kind of long-term thinking, it's essential for building a truly sustainable business.
Totally agree.
So near the end of the letter, Bezos lays out these specific goals for 1998.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Solidifying the brand, expanding the customer base, investing in infrastructure, and exploring international opportunities.
Wow. Ambitious.
Yeah.
And if you look at what Amazon did over the next few years, it's amazing how closely they follow that roadmap.
Yeah.
It shows real foresight and the ability to actually execute on a vision,
It's like a blueprint for building a global e-commerce empire.
pretty much.
But it's fascinating how relevant these principles still are.
You think so?
Yeah. Even though the internet's changed so much since 1997.
True. It has.
We're talking about a time before smartphones, social media, the cloud as we know it.
Right.
But those core ideas like customer obsession, long-term thinking,
Mm-hmm.
data-driven decisions, boldness, they're all still essential for success.
Especially in the digital age.
I guess some things never go out of style. But I wonder, what does all this mean for us regular folks?
Good question.
The ones who aren't running billion-dollar companies, I mean. How can we use these insights in our own lives?
Yeah, in our careers and stuff.
Yeah, it can feel kind of overwhelming.
Right.
Like, how do we take these big ideas about, long-term thinking and bold investments
Yeah.
and make them work for us in our own maybe smaller endeavors?
That's a good point. I think the key is to remember that these principles aren't just for giant companies.
Okay.
They're really about a certain mindset for approaching any challenge.
So how would you translate something like customer obsession for someone who's, say, a freelancer or an artist?
Yeah,
They might not have customers in the same way that Amazon does.
right. That's true. But even if you're not selling products, in the traditional sense,
Yeah,
you still have an audience, people
Yeah.
who are engaging with your work.
right.
So customer obsession there might mean being really tuned in to what your audience needs,
Okay.
what resonates with them, how to improve their experience.
I like that. It's about understanding who you're serving and delivering value, whatever that looks like.
Exactly. And the same goes for long-term thinking. It's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day,
The hustle.
but it's important to step back sometimes
Mhm.
and think, where do I want to be in 5 years, 10 years?
Right.
What can I do today to get there?
And sometimes that might mean making decisions that aren't profitable right away,
Yeah, for sure.
like investing in learning new skills or getting new equipment,
Mhm.
or maybe taking on a project that doesn't pay much but gives you good experience.
Exactly. It's being willing to play that long game.
Make those investments that'll pay off down the road.
And sometimes that takes a bit of that Bezos-style boldness, too.
Oh, right.
It might mean pushing yourself outside your comfort zone, taking on a challenge that feels scary, or putting your work out there, even if you're not 100% sure it's perfect.
That can be tough.
It can.
But I guess it's about remembering that Bezos started somewhere, too.
Yeah?
Back in '97, Amazon was just this small online bookstore with a big vision.
And that's what makes this letter so inspiring. It reminds us that anyone can achieve great things
Yeah.
if they have a clear vision, they're willing to work hard, And they have the courage to embrace those core principles.
Customer focus.
Long-term thinking.
Data-driven decisions.
And a bit of boldness.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Bezos' 1997 letter, what's the one thing that really sticks with you from this conversation?
You know, for me, it's the idea that even in a world that's constantly changing, some fundamental principles, they just stay relevant.
They're timeless.
The internet has changed so much since '97. But those core ideas from the letter, just as relevant today.
It's kind of empowering, right?
It is.
It means that no matter what the future throws at us, we have a framework for making good decisions and building something meaningful.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that about covers it for our deep dive into Jeff Bezos' 1997 letter to shareholders.
It was a good one.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll catch you next time for another fascinating topic.